Yo, what is up, YouTube? It's your boy Uptempo Gaming coming back at you with another video. And in today's video, we're gonna be talking about some bad news, boys. It's about Call of Duty Modern Warfare. You don't like to hear it, but let's get right into it. I'm not gonna take too much of your time. I don't want to make this video too long, since I'm only covering a couple key points of why I think this is extremely bad news and what it can mean for the future of Call of Duty. And if you guys do enjoy, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll come back for some future videos. I'll be covering any news for most games that I like or I'm looking forward to. Alright, so Infinity Ward is still deciding. Alright, before I get into that, my bad. Let me explain what this is. Basically, the point that I'm covering right now is they have already decided to remove aspects of the campaign to appease to a certain demographic who aren't the most strong-willed people, call them. You might call them, pussies. I'll call them soy boys. I don't know. Every man or woman of his own. Back in the late May when we went to Infinity Ward, this is basically I think this is Kotaku, I believe. And one of the immediate shocks behind the game was how real it was and how emotional story missions will be. You see, I don't believe anything influencers tell me, but because they always fabricate and exaggerate things to better sell copies of this game. Because when they go over there, they get early access, therefore early news, early information to be able to cover it first and put it out there for more clicks or views on YouTube or any other platform. So they will fabricate things, they'll exaggerate things in order to sell better copies and be able to be invited back the very next year to do the same thing over and over again. They are sociopaths, if you ask me. Bringing in a new level of realism to this franchise for the first time since the No Russian mission. Another mission that was real, intense, crazy, and people were just complaining because they can't handle the truth. They can't handle what happens in real life because most of them never leave their home. Most of them never face any conflict in real life. So this right here is the most amount of conflict they have ever faced. One of the two missions we saw was a flashback mission as players are taught why Farah becomes a rebel fighter and why her life was completely changed because of events in her childhood. During this specific mission, the player will play out as Farah, and we've got a full description of the missions here in case you missed. Right there, that's pretty good. Farah becomes a rebel fighter. Obviously something happened in her. If something bad happens in your life, sorry about that, that was my alarm. If something bad was happening in your life, God forbid, then you would try to not go through it again, or make sure that other people don't go through the same experience that you went through, because you know how horrifying it is. So you try to make a change in some certain ways. So that's pretty real. That brings realism to the story, which is a good thing for campaigns. Multiplayer, I really don't care whether it's real or not. This it's just shooting people, getting kill streaks, things along those lines. You don't really have to have a realism aspect, in my opinion. One aspect of the mission was very disturbing during the studio visit was that when Farah and her brother are navigating the area in stealth, you overhear Russian soldiers taking out civilians on ground that are unable to move because of the nerve gas. However, at one point there's a Russian soldier that says to round up women and children because their boss likes the young ones. You see, this is real life. Like I said, most of these people who complain about stuff like this, they have never had any real conflict in their life. They've never had any real bad aspects or bad things happen to them to a certain degree. Maybe like a quick slap on the wrist every once in a while. So they create situations and dangers for themselves, or complain about other dangers going on in other people's lives because they don't go through it themselves. Now Kotaku is reporting that at E3 PR told them that the line is being removed from the game. You see, you can't do stuff like this. You give people like this, other people complaining about stuff like this, you give them an inch, they want a yard. You give them a yard, they want a mile. And next thing you know, you'll be changing up your whole vision and what you believe that is right for the game, and it will be the benefits and good aspects of the game. You're removing it completely to appeal to a certain demographic of people who cannot handle a literal video game that is talking about actual events that are going on in real life. It's called Modern Warfare. things like this are happening in real life. Actual things like this. And if you're complaining, like I said, it's because you have nothing else to complain about in life. You're not actually going through any real strife. Any person who's actually going through like certain degrees of conflict in their life know that this shit right here, this is nothing. This is a fucking video game, and they know how real this shit is. So they wouldn't complain about that, especially grown men. A change to a scene just a few weeks after we got to see it. Activision made no indication to us that a specific line was being removed during our visit, but they were candid in discussing that they are still figuring out many aspects of the engagement in this game and how far we want to take certain aspects. It's a fine line that Infinity Ward is walking with this game. Blah, blah, blah. You already know. See, that part of the reality of war is that there are people who face unpleasant events, and there is a portion. Yeah, this is real life. People face this all the time. It's very sad, and I'm not gonna lie. It's very depressing when you actually think about it, but it is real. At the end of the day, people are going through this, and if you're actually complaining about that, how about you go out and try to help the people who are actually going through this instead of complaining about a goddamn video game, talking about the events and bringing to light that these things actually happen in the real world. Activision PR Kotaku at their behind the scenes closed their session that Infinity Ward is removing that line from the game, and specific line was reportedly meant to be foreshadowing a scene that was coming up later in the campaign, but that scene has also been removed from the game. Look at that. They removed one aspect, they had to remove a whole completely different aspect, because when you're putting together a good story, or a story that is at least decent in certain ways, because Infinity Ward does make very good stories, I can say that much. When you're making a good story, you have events that lead up to other events, and when you take out the event that leads into the other event, you have to take out the other event, because it will not make sense anymore if you still keep that event in the game. It'll make the story very convoluted and ridiculous. So they had to remove one aspect, therefore they had to remove another aspect. So they have to corrupt and infringe upon their own vision of the game and the campaign in order to appeal to these people. I'm telling you, stuff like this never works out for companies. And I wouldn't be surprised if the whole aspect of the multiplayer just feels so much less real just because they took this out. And I don't know what you guys are thinking. Oh, well, it's not this big of a deal. You're right, this instance right here is not that big of a deal. But it's what it means for the future of the game. If they are willing to take out this aspect of the game already, then what they are willing to do for the future when people complain about stuff like this. What if there's a certain aspect of the multiplayer that a lot of people enjoy, but this certain demographic of people are saying it's too violent, it's too like, hardcore, or edgy, if you want to call it, and they have to remove that aspect of the game, therefore taking out the 70% who actually like it and appealing to the 30% who think it's too hardcore, quote unquote. With how real and emotional the story is taking, Call of Duty Infinity Ward but have to be careful navigating the fine line of realism and how far disturbing they want to go. I mean, real life doesn't take any stops on how disturbing and fucked up it wants to be, so why should a video game talking about real life do it? My impression of this game, I also discussed this back during the reveal, as this game is coming into a world where politics is in a tricky place, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare is one wrong line away from making headlines in a bad way. I don't see how. See, this is what I'm talking about. People who don't actually go through any problems in real life, I keep on repeating this, but this is mostly how it is. If people don't go through real problems in their life, they'll complain about the most ridiculous things because they think that is actual conflict, when in reality it's absolutely nothing and it's ridiculous. Alright, so another point that I wanted to make is, and this will be the last point before I actually end the video, because everything else is mostly speculation, but this, they said in the E3 Twitch press conference, or I think it was the Twitch one, that they are still in pre-alpha, and that's very bad. Let me explain to you why. This is how it goes for people who don't know. It's pre-alpha, alpha, sometimes pre-beta, and then beta, and then full release. And this point in the game, every other Call of Duty has at least been in alpha state or ahead of alpha state, where they're able to invite influencers to play the game, do early content, put it on their channels and stuff like that, and show people how the game is. These guys are still in pre-alpha, and They are not even ready to present the game. Excuse me. And they had nothing to reveal at E3. They just kept on telling us same shit over and over again, stuff we already heard, stuff we already know, because they had actually nothing to show us except for people behind closed doors. How are you going to be able to show people the game behind closed doors but not do it in your E3 presentation? Like, that's ridiculous to me. Like, I don't understand. Why would you do that? That's so stupid. Like, if you have the game available in some sort of fashion, show it to everybody. Don't show it to certain people behind closed doors. Give us a little taste of, so we can at least, you know, know what we're getting into. These people don't want that, though. They don't want us to know what we're getting into, so we keep us hyped and ready for just to be ultimately unsatisfied like every single year. And they said right here, Infinity Ward says they know fans want new info and gameplay. It says they'll share new details on Modern Warfare when we're ready. They're not ready. They're still in pre-alpha, like I said. That's absolutely ridiculous. They should already be past alpha by now. We only have a couple months until the game actually fully releases, and we all know the last couple of months is just testing out bugs, doing PR, you know, hyping up the game and stuff like that. That's all it really is for the last month of the game. And this right here, this is scary. I'm not any more hyped for the game. If actually I'm a lot less hyped than I actually was. I'm a big fan of Infinity Ward games, and this right here is not very promising in the slightest. That's all I wanted to cover though in today's video. I don't want to go too far into it. I don't want to, you know, I just wanted to cover what we actually know. There's a lot of speculation out there, but I don't want to cover speculation until I get actual facts. And we're just gonna end the video here, man. I'm just disappointed. Like I said, this is very bad for the future of Call of Duty, and this showed that they're willing to bend their knee to frivolous things such as a campaign being too real, even though it's based on realistic events in a certain fashion. I don't understand. But it's your boy Uptempo Gaming, man, and I am out. Peace.